The early Roman Empire, from 27 BCE to 1900 to 193 CE, was an era of advanced development in art and architecture, drawing influence from the societies before them and existing with them. During this period, artists were able to master the mixture of Greek, Egyptian, Etruscan, and their own Roman art styles to create an extremely unique blend that would become iconic in the future. This era was led by emperors such as Augustus, Hadrian, Trajan, all well-known sponsors of the arts. Their funding provided their resources for massive amounts of art to be created during their respective reigns, giving future appreciators insight into the religion, history, and lifestyle of the early Roman Empire. This era was symbolized by the expansion upon techniques such as painting, mosaics, architecture, and sculpture, which would become significant breakthroughs for artists of the future.
The Column of Trajan is a famous monument located in Rome, the capital of modern-day Italy and the early Roman Empire. It was built to commemorate the Emperor Trajan's victory in both the First and Second Dacian Wars. It was completed in 113 AD and is considered a marvel of Roman engineering and art. The bottom part of the column depicts the events during and surrounding the First Dacian War, and transitions into doing the same revolving around the Second Dacian War towards the top. The column is topped with a sculpture of Emperor Trajan himself. The column is an in-the-round bas-relief made of Luna marble. It stands at 98 feet tall and contains more than 2,500 figures depicting several scenes of the Dacian Wars. The column can be connected to multiculturalism in several different ways. Firstly, its importance and originality has inspired the construction of several monuments all over the globe, such as in Paris, London, and Baltimore. In Paris, it inspired the column dedicated to Napoleon. In London, it inspired the column honoring Admiral Horatio Nelson, and in Baltimore, it inspired the Washington Monument. More importantly, it represents multiculturalism by depicting other cultures, such as the Dacians, who are now modern-day Romanians, and their allies, the Sarmatians. Even though they were the Romans' enemies, the column pays homage to their intricate styles of helmets and armor and weapons, which Roman metalworking drew its inspiration from. Overall, the Column of Trajan is a symbol of multiculturalism in the early Roman Empire by representing the Romans' tendency to learn from the cultures they were involved with, whether through war or partnership. The Arapacis Augustae, or Altar of Augustan Peace, is another famous monument located in the capital of modern-day Italy, Rome. It was commissioned by the Roman Senate in 13 BC to celebrate Augustus's return to Rome from his time in Spain and Gaul. It was completed in 9 BC, and it is a symbol of Augustus's restoration of Roman peace, and to honor this peace, they conducted animal sacrifices to the Roman gods on its altar every year in hopes that they would maintain the empire's stability. The marble altar is an outstanding example of Roman advancements in art at the time, being filled with bas-relief depictions of the Roman religion and mythology, and surrounded by screens that gave storytelling and showcased the power of the imperial leadership. The Altar of Augustan Peace can be connected to multiculturalism in multiple different areas. One example is how the friezes on the altar show the land and territory that the Roman Empire had conquered at the time, while celebrating the diversity and abundance that those territories bring to the empire. Another example is the amount of inspiration that the altar takes from Greek and Etruscan art and architecture. It draws many aspects, such as the Etruscans' knowledge of bas-relief and use of highly detailed pattern work, and uses Greek architectural inspiration for the processional screens and platform. The final and very interesting connection to multiculturalism is that on one of the processions containing Emperor Augustus, there are three evidently non-Roman children depicted as part of the imperial household. There's been lots of speculation as to who these children are and where they may be from, but what we know is that they are not Roman and were considered as close to the emperor, which goes to show how influential other cultures were on the early Roman Empire. This is just an example of how the Arapacis Augustae, or Altar of Augustan Peace, is a symbol of early Roman Empire multiculturalism.
The marble bust of Hadrian. Emperor Hadrian reigned from 117 to 138 CE. This bust is made from marble and measures to 79 centimeters tall. The marble bust of Hadrian was formerly in the collection of Charles Townley and is currently located in the British Museum. The bust depicts the emperor unclad, the evocation of the Greek concept of heroic nudity. Hadrian was the first emperor to show himself regularly with a beard as well. Hadrian, like most Roman emperors, used statues to diffuse his image across the Roman world. This is just one example of the many statues made around the time of his reign. The bust of Hadrian is connected to multiculturalism through Greek and Egyptian influences. The portrait of Hadrian shows a combination of naturalism with the idealization characteristics of Greek classical sculpture. This blend of realism and idealization was a significant trait of Greek art, particularly in those who followed in the Hellenistic period. One of the most distinctive features of the bust is Hadrian's curly hair and beard. This beard is significant because it is not only a mark of his personal appearance but also a stylistic choice. During Hadrian's reign, the beard became fashionable among Roman emperors, making a shift away from the clean-shaven ideal of early emperors like Augustus and Trajan. Egyptian and Eastern influences were also huge. Hadrian made a special pilgrimage to Egypt, and the influence of Egyptian art on Roman portraiture can be seen in the more stylized aspects of his bust. Roman portraits of Hadrian sometimes adopted the heavy-lidded, intense gaze that was characteristic of Egyptian representations of the pharaohs, further emphasizing Hadrian's association with divine rule. Eastern cultures were known for their emphasis on symbolism, and this is reflected in Hadrian's portraits, where he is often shown with a dignified and sometimes mysterious expression, in contrast to the more direct and public-facing portraits of earlier emperors like Augustus. The Ludovisi Battle Sarcophagus. The sarcophagus was discovered in 1621 and named after its first owner, Ludovico Ludovisi. It is made from marble and measures to 1.55 meters high, 2.73 meters wide, and 1.37 meters deep. The patron was Hostilianus. The Ludovisi Battle Sarcophagus is a famous piece currently located in the National Roman Museum in Rome, Italy. It was originally located in a tomb near the Via Tiburtina in Rome. The front of the sarcophagus is decorated with a monumental relief that depicts a battle between Roman soldiers and barbarians. It appears initially to be a chaotic scene, but closer examination reveals that the figures have been carefully balanced in their composition. The battle scene, depicted on the Ludovisi battle sarcophagus, illustrates a Roman victory over barbarian enemies, which could refer to various groups such as the Goths. Rather than showing the Romans as simply brutal conquerors, the sarcophagus presents the conflict in a more nuanced way, with the barbarians shown as formidable opponents. The dynamic and dramatic composition of the battle scene, with figures overlapping and twisting in complex poses, reflects the Roman preference for realism and emotional intensity in art. The sarcophagus itself is a quintessential example of Roman funerary art, a tradition that was heavily influenced by earlier Greek art, but transformed to fit Roman values. The sarcophagus can be connected to multiculturalism in a few ways, as it was influenced by multiple cultures. The twisting dynamic figures of the Ludovisi battle sarcophagus bear strong similarities to the depiction seen in Greek friezes. The use of Greek-style motifs and the naturalistic approach to human anatomy in the Ludovisi sarcophagus suggests the continuing Greek influence on Roman artistic expression. Another example is Persian influence. The period in which the Ludovisi Battle sarcophagus was created also saw significant interaction between the Roman Empire and the Persian Sassanid Empire. The depiction of highly detailed armor and the dramatic, almost cinematic action scenes on the sarcophagus could be seen as influenced by the sophisticated Persian traditions of courtly art and war depictions, which also emphasized dynamic action and heroism.
Hello, my name is Jason, and I'm going to be talking about the Discobolus and the Colossus of Nero. So, the Discobolus was originally a Greek statue. It was created by the Greek artist Myron around the 5th century BCE, which is in the Archaic period. So, what the Discobolus is representing is a man throwing a discus, and in the artwork, he is in the at the end of the throw, he's about to launch it. The This sport was really popular in Greece, and this statue was actually an original Greek statue, which was made in bronze. Um, the Romans created several copies of this, but many of them were in marble. The original was in bronze, and the copies were in marble. The Romans were, were very inspired by the Greeks because they really liked the athleticism of Greece. They liked the way their statues, their artworks would be filled with life, and this one specifically has a lot of contrapposto. It's got a lot of weight on this 1 foot here. You could tell he's about to turn and launch it into the air. Based on the movement, you can tell that there's some movement here about to throw it. Also, a little fact is that Hitler actually bought one of the copies of this Scobulus, and it was actually the most complete Roman version of the Scobulus. But then later it was returned to Italy. So the next artwork I'm going to be talking about is the Colossus of Nero. So the Colossus of Nero was created in the 1st century CE, so at the very early stages of the Roman Empire. When it was created, it was one of the largest statues in the world. As you can see in this picture, this is how it would have looked like. It was made out of almost the entire thing was made out of bronze, and this was created after a war campaign that Nero fought in, and it, the statue really makes him look, uh, I guess, kind of godlike. You can see him in this pose, you know, showing divinity, and he's godlike, even with the crown here. So the Colossus of Nero was dismantled during Constantine's reign, and a reason is that maybe Constantine wanted his own um, colossal statue, which he did make. And also you could say there was some Egyptian influence in creating the Colossus of Nero, since during the Egyptian times they really wanted their pharaohs or their leaders to be looked at as godlike, and also they also wanted their statues to be not just life size, but much, much bigger than life size. So, and that was also passed down to the Greeks, and the Romans took a lot of influence from the Greeks and the Egyptians.
The Arch of Titus is a commemorative arch built to honor Titus's victory in suppressing revolt in Israel. Titus's father, Emperor Vespasian, decided to put his son in charge of the Roman army and commanded him to put an end to the rebellion in Israel. Titus managed to occupy and destroy Jerusalem, putting an end to the rebellion. The arch was built after Titus's death by Titus's brother, Domitian, to celebrate his victories in Israel and to honor him. All over the arch are carvings depicting many scenes from the revolt, from battles to Roman soldiers stealing treasures from Jerusalem to bring back to their homes. The arch has both Greek and Etruscan influences. The structure contains many Corinthian columns, which first appear in Greek architecture. These columns were popularized by the Greeks and eventually became very popular in Roman architecture. The practice of creating big structures to celebrate military victories was believed to have been started by the Etruscans. Many believe that this practice might have come from them. The Arch of Titus also has a strong influence on some modern architecture, like the Gate of India in New Delhi and the famous Arc de Triomphe in Paris, France. The next artwork is the bust of Emperor Domitian. You might recognize Domitian's name because it is under Domitian at the Flavian Amphitheater, or as we call it today, the Colosseum, was finished. But first I want to give you some background information. After the death of Emperor Vespasian, Vespasian's son, Titus, took the throne of the Roman Empire, being the first Roman emperor to succeed his biological father. Titus was considered a very popular emperor, but he unfortunately only ruled for 3 years. After this, his brother, Domitian, would take the throne. Many have speculated that Domitian might have had a hand in his brother's death, but we are not sure about this. Domitian's claim to fame as a Roman emperor was his reign of terror, where he had several Senate members executed for their philosophical views. The majority of these Senate members held Stoic philosophical views, which led them to be killed by Emperor Domitian. He also, during his reign, almost ended up bankrupting the Roman Empire by consistently increasing the army's pay. These high costs were only offset because of all the land and property he stole from the Senate members he killed, and all of the treasure he stole from foreign lands. He was eventually assassinated in an attempt led by multiple of his palace officials, his wife, and to nobody's surprise who knows Roman history, the Praetorian Guard. The news of his death sparked joy in the Senate, and they ordered for the condemnation of his memory. The army is generally in charge of this, but since he raised their pay so much, they refused to do it. Now we can finally move on to the artwork. The sculpture is a freestanding marble bust of Emperor Domitian. It was created in the 1st century and is currently housed in the Louvre in France. The sculpture has a very strong Greek Hellenistic influence with a high level of detail. It also shows the ultimate goal of trying to portray Emperor Domitian as accurately as possible, trying to portray him as what he would have looked like in real life. The statue is also made out of marble. While lots of artworks of Domitian were destroyed, many of them were still left intact because the army refused to destroy them. The army eventually requested for the people responsible for Domitian's assassination to be punished. The death of Emperor Domitian would lead to the end of the Flavian dynasty, and the Senate would then appoint Nerva, who was an experienced politician who worked under Emperor Nero. This would lead to a new dynasty, including many famous names, such as Trajan, Hadrian, and Marcus Aurelius.
The Alexander mosaic was made roughly in the 2nd century BCE by unknown artists, and was originally found on the ground between two peristyle courtyards and the House of Faun in Pompeii. It was preserved by the layers of ash from the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE, and its approximate 1.5 million pieces remain in good condition today. A replica of the mosaic can currently be viewed in Pompeii, and the original is located in the Naples National Archaeological Museum. The museum is a historical depiction of the Battle of Issus, which occurred on November 5, 333 BCE, and was fought between Alexander the Great of Macedonia and Darius III of Persia. As the two armies fight each other, Alexander is on the ground, stabbing one of Darius' soldiers with a spear. Simultaneously, Darius stares and gestures towards Alexander as his chariot is turning away in surrender, trampling soldiers beneath it. The Alexander mosaic is considered a Roman copy of an original Greek wall painting. This is partially evident in the lack of detail at the top of the mosaic, which is as a result of the sheer size of the work. The painting would be so large that the top would not be as visible as the middle and the bottom portions of the work. This detail lasted into the Roman replication, which is a direct example of the multicultural influences on Roman art. The painting would have been made in approximately 310 BCE during the Hellenistic period. Unfortunately, these original Greek paintings were made to be replaceable and less permanent, and as a result did not withstand the test of time. Rather than being made directly on a wall or floor, the Greeks would utilize removable panels to paint on for practicality. This, however, led to a lack of durability. In reflection of Roman admiration for Greek art, the mosaic was made from almost 2 million tesserae, which are small pieces of glass or stone, which were cut into shapes. The Romans maintained a sense of movement and foreshortening in the mosaic, despite the tiles being more difficult to work with. Early Roman multiculturalism in art reflects the territorial reach of the empire and its acceptance and reverence for other cultures. The integration of Greek and Etruscan artistic styles and traditions are particularly evident in the diverse and widespread art culture of the Roman Empire. Roman art showcased alterations and blends of different art forms such as architecture, mosaic, and sculpture, and would often utilize this art in a way that was personal to the Romans. The apparent cross-culturalism established a rich creative environment and served as a useful tool through Pax Romana ideologies which encouraged social cohesion. The empire's ability to unify their absorbed cultures and peoples under one civilization is clearly translated into the multicultural nature of their art, and its long-lasting legacy is evident in the continued study and appreciation for Roman art in the world today.